Hello, my name is Judy McSwine. I'm here representing the League of Women Voters of North Pinellas County. We are very pleased to participate in this interview of candidates for Dunedin because we work continually for better government. We're having a chat with Julie Ward-Buljolski, who is a candidate for mayor for the city of Dunedin. So to begin with, please tell me and us about yourself and the reason you would like to represent the city of Dunedin as the mayor.
Well, thank you for having us here today. I have grown up in Dunedin. I've been in and out of Dunedin for 45 years. I went to Dunedin Elementary, Dunedin Middle, Dunedin High School, and we are now raising our son here, who is a senior at Dunedin High School and getting ready to go off to college himself. I am a former economic forecaster and planner for roughly 20 years off and on, and have a really pretty unique skill set in looking at our local economy and operating budgets. And so, you know, I feel like I represent the average everyday resident of Dunedin. And Dunedin is facing some pretty big issues. We've got development, spring training, the Causeway Bridge, parking, just to name a few things. And I've got a long history of good policy decisions here, having served the residents for 10 years. And I think that we will need, with all the issues coming up, we will need someone who makes good policy decisions and stands up for the little guy.
Thank you. So you did start to talk about the biggest challenges. Maybe you could expand on that. The biggest challenges you think Dunedin faces at this time and in the next several years.
Sure. And these have been some ongoing challenges that we've been facing. As I mentioned, development. I think folks are really worried not about development itself, but the actual look of development in our community. And we want to make sure that whatever happens in our community, we keep our small town charm and that it's compatible. The Causeway Bridge, we are 2 years in to listening to resident input. The county decides what kind of bridge we get, and I've been speaking before them for the last 2 years, ensuring them that our residents want a mid-level bridge, and I want to continue that fight. Parking, we just started paid parking. And you know, that's going to be a big issue. And then we've got spring training. We need to make sure we have an affordable agreement to do that. And even more importantly than all of that, we need to hire a new city manager. We are a little bit out of a rudder without a ship, and we need to not be putting fires out, but being more visionary.
Thank you. So there have been many recent development projects in the past few years that have raised some concerns about the quaintness of Dunedin. Mm-hmm. And what are your thoughts about development now and in the future?
Well, development is, you know, not a dirty word, but really what we have to worry about, as I mentioned earlier, is what does it look like and how does it affect our community? We are a small community. We are, I like to call it a village. And, you know, whatever we develop should fit within that village. But there's also, in the 10 square miles of Dunedin, are different areas in our community. In our downtown, you wouldn't want to build something that is better suited for State Road 580. And we need to look at our community and break it up into neighborhoods and make sure whatever is built is compatible for that area. I believe that we need architectural standards for all of these areas. We need density standards. We need to make sure that our development doesn't affect our ongoing parking situation. And I don't think that a building has to be from corner to corner and lot line to lot line. It needs to be broken up with some green space, and we need to save some more trees when these developments go up. So I think there's a lot of work to be done.
So the Blue Jays have recently showed that they're committed to staying in Dunedin. And how do you view the economic impact that comes from having a Major League Baseball team?
Well, you know, there's the economic impact, but then there's also the heart and passion of a community. Dunedin, the Blue Jays have been here for 40 years. I played Little League and went to one of their very first games in the 70s and got a ball signed. And my son has played Little League and been to many of their games, whether it's spring training or the minor league. And you know, the Blue Jays want to move their U.S. operation here to Dunedin and Pinellas County for 365 days a year. They have 7 minor league teams on top of the 6 or 8 weeks of spring training. We have done an enormous amount of legwork and economic studies. The experts that we've hired, who the governor of the state of Florida have used, has said they bring roughly $70 million into our county every year. Our mom and pop businesses in the downtown rely on that 6 to 8 week period of time for the growth of their business. And we have a huge connection to Canada. So I likened it to the recipe of a cake. You leave one ingredient out, like spring training, and the cake isn't the same, and Dunedin isn't the same without spring training.
So are you saying that they're going to move out of Toronto? And
no, but they have all of their training and rehab. They want to have all of their training and rehab for all, not only Toronto Blue Jays, but all of their 7 minor league teams here. And right now they do it at both locations.
Thank you. So finally, as a resident of the city of Dunedin, what is your favorite part of living in Dunedin? And as the mayor, how do you see your role in improving the city that you love?
Well, my favorite thing about the city of Dunedin is her people. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up here, and the one thing I can say about the people here is they are compassionate. They care about their neighbors. They care about their community. They're thoughtful and kind people, and that's why my husband and I wanted to raise our son, Thomas, here. It's a unique community where people really come together. So that's really what I love about Dunedin, and you know, how I will lead us into the future. I think Dunedin deserves someone who is compassionate, who's approachable, who's the face of everyday resident in Dunedin. I think that the mayor reflects the personality of this community, and having been here for 45 years, it's sort of bred into me. I believe that we need a good policy decision maker. I've made a number of very strong votes in the last year as representing Dunedin residents as mayor. I voted against paid parking. I voted against the Gateway development, who didn't keep up their end of the bargain. I voted against the midnight motion for firing the city manager, and I voted against limiting citizen input. Those are all good policy decisions. And that's sticking up for the little guy. That's what I've done in the last 2 years, and that's what I want to continue to do. And I hope that I can earn everyone's vote.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm now having a talk with Bruce Livingston, who is running for mayor of the city of Dunedin. So to start, please tell us about yourself and the reason you'd like to represent the city of Dunedin as mayor.
Judy, that's a great question. You know, I think in thinking about that in terms of a little background on me, I'm a dedicated family man. I've been married to my lovely wife, Deidre, for 36 years. And really what adds to that challenge is we've always worked together. So that's 24/7, and so you have to have a special relationship for that. And she truly is the love of my life and truly my business partner. We've had the experience of raising 2 wonderful boys here in Dunedin as well, and I treasure that experience. So I really feel family first. I really believe in that. Additionally, I've been a community leader and I've been very blessed in life and feel very strongly about giving back to the community. And so I've been active in a lot of nonprofit volunteer leadership roles with such organizations as Beast Manor. I've been past chair of the Clearwater Free Clinic. I've been a two-time Rotary president and past chair of the Salvation Army. So giving back is extremely important to me. Lastly, I've been a business leader. For over 30 years, my wife and I owned and ran the family business, a dental manufacturing company. And it takes a lot to do that. And really, you learn a lot, which applies a lot to city business. But why I'm running, it truly is a love for this city. I'm taking a look forward as to some of the decisions we're going to have to make as a city. I feel it's extremely important that the next mayor has hands-on business and community experience.
Thank you. So what do you think are the biggest challenges Dunedin faces now and in the future?
You know, the ones you hear an awful lot about, you know, we affectionately refer to them as the big three. And that would be the Blue Jays. You know, that's an obvious one that is an $81 million decision that we're going to have to make as a city. 5.6 million of that is ours. So I think we're going to have to make a good deal there. We need to proceed cautiously and not just focus on the cost of the project, but ongoing operations. Secondly, you'll hear an awful lot about development, and I think it's time that we take a good hard look at our codes and incentives. And moving forward, decide what our citizens want in terms of a development stance. And lastly, hiring of a city manager. After all, that is the CEO of our city, runs the day-to-day operation, and I think it's going to be extremely important we make a good choice here. And I think going out for a true national search will be essential. I think we should be looking for someone that's transparent, communicates well, and is available to not only our city staff, but to our residents. So those would be the big three. As far as future, I think it's going to be a challenge to continue to keep our taxes low while providing the best quality services and quality of life here. We've got a lot of things pulling at our capital. I mentioned the Blue Jays. We've had a purchase of some property, some green space here in Dunedin. So all of that pulls at our capital dollars. And what I would like to see us do as a city is to lessen our dependency on outside capital funding, specifically penny for Pinellas money. So what I would like to see us do is develop an internal funding source for that. Labeling it for capital and contingencies.
So there have been many recent development projects in the past few years that have raised some concerns about the quaintness of Dunedin. And what are your thoughts about development now and in the future?
You know, that's been a hot topic, as you know, and I share, you know, our residents' concerns. It seems like development is just descended upon us all at once. And I'd like to assure everybody that this has been a culmination of a lot of hard work. In our Greg Rice specifically in our planning department brought these initiatives forward 10 years ago, and we didn't have any development. So we've been successful in doing that. Mm-hmm. And so I think going forward, I think the time is right. And the time is right to go out to our citizenry, get some feedback and visioning from them as far as what they see for future development specifically in our downtown and our other corridors. So I think whatever we do there needs to be comprehensive in nature. I think we need to take a look at the city as a whole, not just the downtown, although the downtown may be a good place to start. Mm-hmm. So we've got some challenges, but I think we'll get through those.
So we did talk a little about the Blue Jays and their commitment to staying in Dunedin. And how do you view the economic impact that comes with hosting a Major League Baseball team?
Wow, it's huge, as you know. I think the economic impact that we've been presented, around $70 million to the region, absolutely phenomenal. And really, when you take a look at it, it's far-reaching in nature. I mean, you've got your direct spend, which would be the economic impact of having the Blue Jays organization here in our city. Indirect, which would be patronage of all our merchants and shops and restaurants and that sort of thing. But really something that's kind of not off balance sheet, but you don't think about the number of Canadians that come down here and own homes. So they are property owners here in Dunedin and contribute to the economy through their ad valorem taxes. But I think the most important contribution is maybe not economic in nature, but cultural. I mean, it's a family fun event that everybody looks forward to. I mean, just to relay a little story, my oldest son and I share a March birthday. And every year, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So every year we would pick when the Pittsburgh Pirates were in town. I'd take him out of school, he'd play hooky, and we'd go to the ballpark. And you can't replace experiences like that. And so that's something he and I draw on all the time. So other impacts from a cultural standpoint, our youth get involved. They coach and they mentor and they provide themselves as role models. And I'd like to see them, actually, the Blue Jays get more involved in the community, if we can make them a community partner in which they participate in fundraising events and helping our nonprofits. So all positive.
Good for baseball.
Absolutely.
As a resident of the city of Dunedin, what is your favorite part of living in Dunedin? And as mayor, how do you see your role in improving the city that you love?
That's a great question, Judy. I mean, and that's an easy one, believe it or not. It's the people. The people make a community. And I think I'm biased, I think we have the best people anywhere. And although the sunsets out on the causeway aren't bad either. So, the one thing about Dunedin is our residents, our interests are very diverse. And that's tough as an elected official to manage sometimes. But one thing that unites us all is a sense of community. And I really value, so it's our residents. As a mayor and what that role is, you kind of wear two hats. You wear the ceremonial / ambassador hat, and then you wear a policy hat. And what I see my role as mayor in doing is wearing both of those hats effectively. And so from a ceremonial standpoint, I think the big one there is to get out into the region and draw upon relationships, which I've had through a lot of my nonprofit leadership, and bringing resources and working with other cities, working with the state, and yes, even working with the federal government on bringing resources to Dunedin. On the policy side, obviously we have to run the meetings and conduct the business of the day for the citizens. You've got to act professionally, and you have to lead by example. And I see my role moving forward as just being as positive as I can, create a team, a consensus-driven agenda in which we all move together with well thought out objectives and plans. The future is very bright.
Thank you so much for your answers and your enthusiasm.
Well, thank you very much. We have a great city.
Well, we have candidate Maureen Mo Freeney here today, who's a candidate for seat 1 for the Dunedin City Commission. And I'd like to ask you to tell us about yourself and the reason you would like to represent the city of Dunedin on the City Commission.
Okay. Well, my biggest reason for wanting to be on the commission is that I love Dunedin. And I've been in the community for 31 years, 32 years actually, and ever since I landed in Dunedin in 1983, I have felt tremendously blessed. It's an incredible community. I am doing management consulting now, and so I have time to give back. And so I want to give back to a community that truly Judy's given me so much. Some of the experience that I have to bring to the table. I have 31 years of public service experience. 22 of them I call my magical years here in Dunedin. From 1984 to 2006, I was really part of a special team, I think, that did incremental redevelopment of the downtown. Brick pavers, the decorative lighting, the preservation of the waterfront, preservation of green space. So a lot of things that I think are what people love about Dunedin today. So I have a passion for that. Education-wise, I have a bachelor's degree in law enforcement administration. I have a master's in business administration. I've been tremendously involved in the community over all the years that I've been here. I've been 12 years on the Mies Manor Board, some of those as chair, past president of Dunedin Council of Organizations, 22 years singing at Our Lady of Lourdes Church, leading the contemporary music group. So I know a lot of the community because of that. On the Historic Museum Board, Dunedin Fine Arts Center Advisory Board, Leadership Pinellas. So a lot of things I think I bring to the table. But the biggest thing is I want to serve Dunedin. I want to hear all the people. I love this place. I say I'll live and die in this place, and that's why I want to serve.
Great, thank you. So what do you think are the biggest challenges Dunedin faces at this time and in the future?
So I think, well, first of all, I mean, the one thing that I hear all the time when I'm walking Dunedin neighborhoods is about the desire to keep our charm and our character. So I know that we're going to get a question a little later about development, so I won't get too into that, but I think that is certainly a challenge, and we need to make sure we're making really good decisions, courageous decisions, smart decisions that are going to give us growth. We've got to have some growth, but we got to balance it and make sure we do it right. Another big challenge that we have is hiring a city manager. The new commission will hire the next city manager, and that is a position that's really critical as the CEO of the city. We need to get somebody with a good, wide experience, but who also gets the heart of Dunedin, kind of knows who we want to be, and has the talent to make sure that we're doing right decisions. I think probably what I think is the biggest challenge we're going to face is that we've done a lot of great decisions in Dunedin about basic services, water, sewer, sanitation, and continuing to do things in drainage. But when we look at the fact that we are very much a quality of life community with our rec and parks and library, et cetera, that we need to be able to balance being a quality of life committee with being affordable. And affordability means we've got to be able to maintain, reasonable taxes. We've got to make sure that we're watching the affordability of our housing, rental housing. I talked to a 30-something-year-old girl the other day, and she's working 3 jobs, and the rent cost is really high, and she's worried, but she wants to be in Dunedin. So those are the kind of things I think that are big challenges for us.
Okay, so there have been many recent development projects in the past few years that have raised some concerns about the quaintness of Dunedin. So what are your thoughts about development now and in the future?
Well, first of all, having been in the city for 22 years and remembering back when it was dust balls down Main Street and closed up places and all about the cars, nobody wants to keep the quaintness of Dunedin more than I do. That is why people come here, that is why they stay here, that's certainly why I've stayed here. So I certainly have a passion for that. On my website, I call for, I believe we need to have visioning sessions, community-wide visioning like we did back in 2005, where we brought all the community together and looked at different things that we wanted to see in various corridors of the city, because it's different. The downtown's different than the waterfront, which is different than the South Side, which is different than the Causeway, 580, Douglas, Patricia. There's lots of corridors that we need to watch out for. And then I think as we look at that, we have to have strong development codes, because as I say to people, it's all about the codes. If we don't have strong codes, we might get surprises with some of the buildings that we get that we don't like, which I hear some of that now. And we can yell and scream, and we can be upset, but the reality is to make it legally defensible, we need to make sure our codes are in the right position so we don't get surprises and we get what we want and we keep our charm. And again, I'm all about that. I think that's so critical as we move forward.
So then we have the new development of the Blue Jays recently showed that they're committed to staying in Dunedin. So how do you view the economic impact that comes with hosting a Major League Baseball team?
Well, I'm a proponent of certainly keeping the Blue Jays here. I think they've been one of the spokes on the wheel of Dunedin that makes us special. That being said, I've said to people we can't sell our souls. It has to be affordable. It has to be reasonable. I think that now we've had presentations that have just come out. It's an $81 million project, and of that, the city is looking to be on the hook for about 7% of that, $5.6 million. I think that we're off to a good start. Some of the other players would be the state of Florida, The Toronto Blue Jays actually stepping up with some decent money, and $46 million, the bulk of it coming from the county, and that would come from bed tax, which can only be used for tourism. So if we don't get it in Dunedin, it's going to go somewhere else, you know, within the county. So that makes sense. So, and there is I do believe there's an economic impact both to the city and of course to the county and to the state. Again, I think the biggest thing is we're at the early stages of the information getting out to the public, and we need to listen, and they need to kind of understand the project. I do personally ask when I'm out walking the neighborhoods, and I get a very positive response about making sure they stay here, trying to keep them. But again, it has to be affordable. And we're coming up on 40 years with them in our community, and they're feeling that same connection with us. So if we can, I think it'll be a great thing. And but we have to work through the details.
So are you telling people what the $81 million will be going to?
Well, again, I think that's part of what is just coming out. And of course, the $81 million is partly to redo the whole stadium, and it'll be different and be a more modernized stadium where in the outfield you have the tiki bars and all the things that actually can be used for other special events while games aren't going on. And it is kind of important to say that the Blue Jays are here really 365 days a year doing a lot of rehab and baseball. The other aspect is over by Engelbert Field. They're going to be building a big new facility that's for rehabbing of baseball players. So that there's a huge chunk of the dollars that go into that. So again, there's some changes in some of our displacement of some of our land that's going to be needed. So those details have to come out.
Thank you. So finally, as a resident of the city of Dunedin, what's your favorite part of living here in Dunedin? And as a city commissioner, how do you see your role in improving the city over the next years?
Well, wow, I think that is, I love that question. It's impossible to answer that question, what's your favorite part? But I think if I had to answer it, I would say that over my 32 years here, I've just made amazing connections with people. And actually, before we did this taping, we talked a little bit about some of those people that have been here, some who are gone, some that are new residents here, but the connections with people. And I'm doing that even now out in the neighborhoods. But Dunedin is special. And Dunedinites, as I call them, they love to have fun, they love their green space, they love their biking, they love their golf carts, they love their waterfront access, they love their special events, the rec and park, the library, the culture. We have so much here to be grateful for. As a commissioner, I will be a passionate cheerleader for those. We are absolutely a quality of life community. Again, the challenge will continue to make it affordable, but that is what people love. And I think probably more than anything, certainly what's kept me here, and Dunedin is so in my heart and soul. And it's really just, it's a very special community. The number one thing I hear when I walk the neighborhoods, and I've walked thousands of homes, people love Dunedin. They love it, they feel it, it's in their heart. And that's why, truthfully, I have a passion for Dunedin, and it's the only reason I'm running for election, because there's a lot of important decisions ahead that I want to be part of to help keep us on that right track, because we are special.
Thank you very much. It's been nice chatting with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to talk now with Mike Jones, who is a candidate for Seat 1 on the Dunedin City Commission. And I'd like to start with asking you to tell us about yourself and the reason you would like to represent the city of Dunedin as commissioner.
Well, thank you, Judy. I appreciate the time being here, and the League of Women's Voters for participating in this. I'm Mike Jones. I'm running for Dunedin City Commissioner, Seat 1. I bring a lot to the table, and I think it's time for a change. I've been married to my wife 50 years. This last week, 2 great kids, Missy and Mike. They've both graduated from Dunedin High School. I have a son-in-law, Trip Bars, who's a deputy fire chief in Dunedin. 2 great grandkids, Catherine and Sammy, who live in Dunedin and go to the Garrison Jones Elementary School. I bring a lot to the table. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, served in Vietnam, a Purple Heart recipient. I'm all about this country and this city. I have just as much passion for this country as I have for the city, and I want to bring a change in a new direction. As a major in the Florida Department of Corrections, I retired with 30 years of consecutive service, $35 million budget, and I was mandated to stay within that budget. Supervised 600 staff, over 3,500 residents. I had the same thing the city's got. I had water treatment, sewage treatment, personnel, HR, a water department, fleet maintenance, everything the city's had, I've got, and more. And I managed it. Went through many audits, many evaluations, and I passed all those. My opponent, you know, she left the city in a cloud, she left the county in a cloud. I'm just the opposite. I worked hard for 30 years, never had no discipline, great evaluations, and I look forward to working with the city.
Thank you. So what do you think are the biggest challenges Dunedin faces at this time and in the next several years?
The biggest challenge the city is facing today is paid parking. Let me tell you right off the front here, I oppose paid parking. I oppose paid parking. My opponent, otherwise, she doesn't know whether she is for it or against it, but I oppose paid parking. And one of the first things I do when I'm elected your commissioner, I'm going to repeal the ordinance for paid parking. I've been through the city all week this week when they initiated this process, and the merchants and the residents are upset. The merchants don't know how they're going to pay for it. Their help getting minimum wage. Do they have to give them a raise to make up for the paid parking? Do they have to pay for them with a voucher to pay to park here? One of the ladies that work here said that she wasn't going to work here. When she reports to work right off the get-go, it's going to cost her $10 before she's even earned a dime to park. So I'm opposed to paid parking. It's going to cost us over $1 million thus far just for startup money to run this process. And it's continuing. One of the contractors yesterday talked to me about they're moving 6 or 8 of the kiosk machines. They're already in place. But that's going to cost the city. Tear up the concrete, put the concrete back, pay a contractor to move the kiosk machine. It's just ongoing. It's not a good process. And I look forward to changing that process when I'm elected as commissioner.
Thank you. So there have been many recent development projects in the past few years that have raised some concerns about the quaintness of Dunedin. What are your thoughts about development now and in the future?
I'm not opposed to development. We just need to manage it better than what it is today. One of the big issues, and everybody talks about it, is Victoria Place downtown. We changed the ordinance 1403 and 1404 to fit that particular facility. When they changed the ordinance to fit that facility so they could build it, the city lost $585,000 of impact money and LDO money, land dedication ordinance money. So that's a big thing for us. When we build these buildings and we give these developers a free ride, we lose. The fire department loses on impact money. All the other departments lose on impact money. This TV station loses. So we need to stop the bleeding. And when I'm elected commissioner, I plan on doing that. I plan on taking charge and running this city like it should be run, like a manager should manage a city.
So where would that, I'm curious, where would that impact money come from, the state?
No,
Or-
the impact money comes from a developer. If he's,
Oh, okay.
like
So
when-
he didn't have to pay the impact because of the
The
way
developer didn't have to pay it at that time because the city made
I
a
see.
special provision for him
I see.
on Victoria Place. So we lost a lot of money in that transaction. And there's a lot of that going on when they build these buildings. Highland Avenue, they waive the impact fees.
Thank you. So on to the Blue Jays, who have recently showed that they're committed to staying in Dunedin. And how do you view economic impact that comes with hosting a major league baseball team?
Oh, I'm glad we got that deal. It's not over yet. It's still in a process. It's a long process. But they came back after 2 years of secret negotiations, a lot of rumors, but we've got something we can look at. The Blue Jays came back and made 2 presentations, excellent presentations, at this facility right here and at the Hale Center. Gave us a lot of stuff to look at, a lot of stuff that took 2 years to get done. And we're absorbing that now. And I'm looking over all the numbers. It's 81 million, 40 something from the state, 40-something from the county, and I think it's 6 or 7 million from us. I had to make sure that this is affordable. I'm looking at the numbers now. I'm looking at the facilities what they want to do with their facilities, and I hope we can pull this off. It's great to have them here. My biggest concern with the Jays is Van Eyck Park. A lot of people are concerned with Van Eyck Park. We don't have any parkland to develop in the city, but I understand they're trying to work. The city's trying to work with the Pinellas School Board to do a partnership to create some space for those diamonds and those that dog park and that handball court that we're going to get.
So where would all this money be? How would the Blue Jays be spending this money that you
They're going
talked
to upgrade
about?
their facilities.
I see.
They gave a great presentation. It was beautiful. The facilities they gave us to choose from, not us to choose from, to look at what they're considering, are beautiful. They went through Fort Myers, Winter Haven, several places, and gave us a look at what they had. And then they gave us a comparison of what we got and what we need to change.
So finally, as a resident of the city of Dunedin, what's your favorite part of living in Dunedin? And as a city commissioner, how do you see your role in improving the city that you love?
I love this city. That's why I decided to run for commissioner. We need a change. It's going in the wrong direction, and I want to get that compass back in the right direction. I love the parks. I want to keep Dunedin beautiful and delightful for all the citizens and businesses of this city. This is a great place to live, but we don't need a Miami-based downtown. We need to keep Dunedin beautiful and delightful. We've got a great honeymoon island, the busiest park in the state of Florida. We need to keep it that way. We took a little hit a few months ago during that storm, washed out several $1 million worth of beach rebuilding, but they'll get it back. They'll figure out how to do it and maybe do it better the next time. Parkland, we need to fight hard for the parkland. Anything green in this city, a developer's got his teeth out and wanting to chop at it. So we have to keep developers at a distance so we can keep our beautiful parks.
So is that your favorite part, is the parks?
Parks and rec, it doesn't get any better. Hammock Park, we fought hard to get that. That's a beautiful, I'm there almost every day, walking my dogs, Dagwood and Snickers. And we have a great time walking that park. It's beautiful. It's nature. It's the only piece we got left that's unobstructed. The Causeway Bridge, going out the Causeway, that's a beautiful place. We're talking about rebuilding the bridge. I'm all for the mid-level bridge. My opponent sits on the fence. He wants to wait a year and see what happens with the development on that bridge. I want the people to get together like they did on Hammock Park and voice their opinion and their voice and come together and get the city and the county and the state to build the Midway Bridge, the mid-size bridge.
Well, thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you. It was nice talking to you.
Well, we're here today with Heather Gracie, who is a candidate for seat 3, and we're going to ask some questions of you. So to begin with, please tell us about yourself and the reason that you would like to represent the city of Dunedin as a commissioner.
Well, nice to see you again, Judy.
Thank you.
I came to Dunedin about 30 years ago because my dad got a job at Mease Hospital. So ever since then, I've been a resident of Dunedin, and I'm privileged now to be my husband and I are raising our 3 children here. I got involved in the 2012 campaign for seat 3 because I'm really dedicated to parks. And we've raised our kids in parks, and the parks in Dunedin mean so much to me and many, many other families. So I'm interested in extending my term as commissioner because of that 2012 campaign and how hard I worked during that time, in addition to the 4 years I've spent up here learning and knowing so much about Dunedin and representing. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I really love making connections for folks.
Good. So what are the biggest challenges you think Dunedin faces at this time and in the next several years?
I think one of the big things that I'm focusing on as a current commissioner and as in charge of the budget is technology. I think that our 2008 economy that we had, and that recession really put a damper on the ability for the city to upgrade so many needed assets in the ways of technology. And our residents right now really are in tune with the city and want to know more. So I think the challenge there for us is how do we fit into their lifestyles with communicating to them, and on what platform? Is it physical mail? Is it email? Is it social media? And at what point can we start using technology to leverage in city meetings? That remains a big challenge that I see the city has.
Thank you. There have been many recent development projects in the past few years that have raised some concerns about the quaintness of Dunedin. What are your thoughts about development now and in the future?
That's a great question, and we've addressed development many times. I know in my 2012 campaign we were focusing on the fact that one of the questions was we haven't had any development, and so it seems to be that we're used to green fields that really weren't meant to be green. Now that we have buildings on them, it's a little bit of a shock. So I think we need to, moving forward, make sure that we know this is going to be cyclical. In terms of the economy, I think with interest rates maybe getting nudged up a little bit, that could put a bit of a squeeze. But we're in demand in Dunedin, and most of our development is infill development. It should be cautious. It should be almost surgical, the fact that once something comes down or is going back up, it does so without a lot of intensity on the parcel. If that means setbacks, if that means more green space around it, then that's information that I think is good to have as we move forward in making sure that we have cautious growth.
So you probably have an active development.
We sure do. We have an
Board.
active development board, and they're made up of a lot of skilled individuals. I rely on them a lot in decision making.
So the Blue Jays have recently shown that they are committed to staying in Dunedin. How do you view economic impact that comes with hosting a Major League Baseball team?
That's a great question. We were actually able to have the Blue Jays staff here and commit to us last week that they're committed to being here, which was fantastic to hear. I know our merchants are very thrilled about that, and even at the county level, because that's where a lot of the impact, the economic impact is going to be, is at the county. Dunedin only has so many beds, and Dunedin only has so many roads. So a lot of the folks who are here for games, and we love to have them, they are staying in town in addition to traveling within the county, maybe for the overnight stay. So it's a great big county-wide effort. And the county will be funding, at least if they so choose, a big portion of that investment. So the economic impact is real. In terms of what it means to Dunedin, it means a lot to our merchants, it means a lot to the folks who live here, and certainly our Canadian tourists. A lot of them have bought homes here, they expect to be down here, and when we realize that we're one country in Canada talking to our beautiful small city, that's a phenomenal impact on economic development.
So will there be a new stadium?
I think there could be some changes to the current stadium. But again, development's pretty important here, and we don't want it too intense. But surely the stadium needs a little bit of love, and I'm seeing that over in the training facility over off of Salone, there could be some changes there too.
So as a resident of the city of Dunedin, what is your favorite part of being in Dunedin? And as a city commissioner, how do you see your role in improving the city that you love?
Great question. My favorite part of living in Dunedin is when I'm on the water and looking east. So it's always a phenomenal perspective to be within our waterways and then viewing our city from that perspective.
You mean west?
No, I'm looking east because I'd be looking at our city if I'm west.
Right.
So that's
I
the
see.
joy
Okay.
I get there.
Sorry.
No worries. My favorite part. That's my favorite part. So, what was the tag end of that question?
How do you see your role in improving the city?
My role in improving the city is to be as responsive as possible to the people I report to, which is the residents of this city. I see my role continuing in making sure that I'm communicating the most effective way, and that I'm giving them pertinent and reliable information, whether that's with respect to building, parking, parks. We have so many robust services in this city, and making sure that they're used and known about because they're taxpayer funded. Very important, and I plan to continue working in that vein.
Thank you for answering and being here today.
Sure, thank you.
I'm here today with Reuben Hepburn, who is running for City Commissioner for Seat 3 for the City of Dunedin. So I'd like to start with asking you to tell us about yourself and the reason you would like to represent the City of Dunedin on the City Commission.
You know, that's a very familiar question. And the reason why I'm running is because I possess certain leadership skills that I've been able to cultivate or develop over the years as a high school principal. I am the former high school principal for Dunedin High School, and now I'm the principal at Gibbs High School, and I'm going into my 6th year as a high school principal. I love what I do, but I also love the city in which I live, where I play, and where I used to work. And I love the city so much that it's upsetting to me to see the direction or the path or the journey that has been set for us. Some of the things or issues that are facing our city are issues that residents weren't asked, our opinions weren't asked for. We weren't asked to share how we feel. And so this direction, I believe, is one-sided. And it's a journey that residents are being forced to take, especially when you take a look at what happened in late January with the motion that was made to force our city manager to resign. I'm just not pleased with the direction that we're heading in, and I believe it's time for a change, and I want to be that change for Dunedin.
Well, that's a segue into the next question.
Okay, all right.
Which is, so what are the biggest challenges that Dunedin faces at this time and in the next several years? And answering that, perhaps you could expand a little bit more on why you want to represent Dunedin with those challenges.
With those challenges. And there are many challenges. There's paid parking, there is the issue of the Blue Jays, there's the Dunedin Causeway. But I believe that before we can address those challenges, we must address the elephant in the room, and that is the lack of trust and transparency that is currently sitting on our city commission. That lack of trust and transparency was made evident when residents turned out regarding the resignation or forced resignation of our former city manager, Rob DeSpirito, as well as the issue of paid parking. Residents turned out in droves because they weren't satisfied with how our city commissioners were managing our city. And so right now, until we address the lack of trust and transparency within our city commission, we really can't move forward. There's going to be that issue no matter what. I believe that with my leadership and running for Dunedin City Commissioner Seat 3, I offer trust. I offer transparency, one that residents can believe in. My leadership is forward thinking. It's leadership for the future. And I believe that once I'm elected, we can go ahead and move forward with addressing paid parking, or revisiting that issue at least. We can go ahead and address the issue with the Dunedin Causeway. We can talk about the Blue Jays and what our next steps are in regards to keeping them here in Dunedin and making sure it's not overburdening our residents here in Dunedin.
So how would you affect that transparency?
Well, first of all, I believe that transparency is something that has to be demonstrated or displayed. But not only that, that transparency can be easily accomplished by involving residents in the decision-making process, by being open, by being upfront with them, communicating with them, and not only communicating, but listening to what residents have to say on these key issues. By listening to residents and communicating, creating a two-way dialogue, whether that's over the internet or whether that's face-to-face, we can cultivate a level of transparency and trust that the residents can believe in.
Thank you. So now we'll talk about development. And there have been many recent development projects in the past years that have raised some concerns about the quaintness of Dunedin. And what are your thoughts about development now and in the future?
Well, 10 years ago, I moved to the city of Dunedin simply because of its charm and its quaintness and the beauty of Dunedin. I was drawn to our beaches, our parks, but I was also drawn to the small town feel that Dunedin possesses. Now, it's going to be difficult to keep developers from wanting to take part or coming to Dunedin for the very same reason that I arrived here or moved here. But what we have to do with development is be smart, be strategic, and make sure that we plan for where these developments will take place. Right now, as I walk around downtown area, we're fine, and we've experienced some developers coming in and they are making a profit off of our city. But the one thing I don't want to see happen is downtown Dunedin becoming so commercialized or congested to where it eats away at the charming city that we all know and love. As far as developers are concerned, we need to look to other areas around our city where developers can still make their mark or presence known, still make a profit from the need that exists within our city, but do it to where we can control what happens in our city.
So another good thing happening in Dunedin is the Blue Jays have recently showed that they're committed to staying here in Dunedin. So how do you view the economic impact that comes from hosting a Major League Baseball team?
Well, I'm going to tell you, the economic impact that the Toronto Blue Jays bring to this region, it's been debated, it's been discussed, whether that's $80 million in as far as an economic impact or $20 million. Either way, that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of money that we benefit from here in the city of Dunedin. Not only that, when the Blue Jays are in spring training or when Major League Baseball season is in play, we have an entire country following Dunedin. Our ads are commercialized up there in Canada. They're following our downtown business. They're hearing about our wonderful beaches. They're hearing about the wonderful festivals that we have in Dunedin. So the relationship is a good thing, and it's growing, especially with Mr. Shapiro making it a point to say we want to remain here in Dunedin and keep Dunedin our home for another 40 years. What I would like for us to do is to continue to cultivate that relationship, but I want to make sure we do it where it's fiscally sound for us, where our residents or taxpayers don't have to carry that heavy burden of paying the price to keep them here. And I believe that there's a solution. I believe there's an option that we can entertain or an option that we can explore to make sure that happens. We want to keep the Blue Jays here. They do so many wonderful things, not just for our economy, but when you think about our family structure, they give mom and dads a wonderful place to take their children to watch a baseball game. And many children have fallen in love with the sport because they first visited a Blue Jays game right here in Dunedin.
It's a great sport.
It is a great sport. It is a great sport.
So as a resident of the city of Dunedin, what is your favorite part of living in Dunedin? And as a city commissioner, how do you see your role in improving the city that you love?
First of all, I'm afraid to tell you what my favorite part of Dunedin is because I don't want to give my secret away. But there's a little bench right there on Edgewater where I like to go, where I like to visit and watch the sunset, especially at the end of a long day. We have such a beautiful sunset scenery right here on Edgewater. But not only that, I love our parks. Our parks offer you a tranquil, peaceful, but yet beautiful place to go to relax. You can spend time with your family there. And not only that, but you can also socialize with other residents who love our city just as much as I do. My role as a city commissioner would be to protect what we have in place and enhance those things that need to be paid attention to. For example, when you think about our stormwater drainage system, that's something that needs to be paid attention to. When you think about what we're doing as far as Honeymoon Island, that's something we can enhance so that the generations to come can continue to enjoy Honeymoon Island just like I enjoy Honeymoon Island. So that will be my role as far as city commissioner for Seat 3.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Good chat.
Oh, it has. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the candidates and to you for your attention. And we hope that this these interviews have helped you be better informed. And please remember to vote on November 8th.